Well, that was fun. Well, that was fun. Thank you for starting your day. We'll bring that one back. Uh, Good morning, and thank you for starting it with a six-pack, the Scotty six-pack, the only daily getting back to daily. Feels good. Podcast bringing you everything you need to know in Wisconsin sports. I am your host, Kedrick Stumbris. You can follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Kedrick Stumbris and follow the podcast at Scotty Six Pack. That's all letters, no numbers, for the latest updates in Wisconsin sports and some general musings when I'm in the building covering live. What a crazy game. I mean, it was not the most memorable game. And if you didn't read the podcast title, we're talking about Wisconsin basketball defeating Indiana inside the Kohl Center for the 20th straight time. 91-79 in the, I guess you could call it again, the Max Klesmit game, although there have been many Max Klesmit games in recent days. It's been a blast. And look, the Max Klesmit of it all, we have to talk about it. Look, all right, off the top, Wisconsin beats Indiana. 91-79, had the pleasure of being in the building, still here in the building. As you can see, I got a section, other way, 208 sign behind me as I'm still here in the press box. But Wisconsin wins, covered here for Badger Notes. Go read our piece on the website, Badger Notes, www.badgernotes.com. We'll link the piece in the podcast description as well. You could also find the piece and a little bit of a preview of it in the newsletter for this podcast. There's a podcast that's this one that you're listening to, and it also has a newsletter that trying to be better at publishing. You'll get that in your inbox. Same regular morning schedule that you'll get this podcast in. So along with that article, you'll also find the the full video I recorded for YouTube of the player interviews after the game. I was not in the front row like I usually am for player interviews, so that was a little upsetting. So video quality is a little all over the place as I'm trying to maneuver around somebody's big head. It's a regular sized head. That should be nice. But the Max Klesmit of it all. Unbelievable. And Max Klesmit, who has 26 points on the night, the most he's ever scored as a Badger. He once scored 27 when he was at Wofford. But it's the fashion in which Max Klesmit is doing it right now for Wisconsin basketball. Wisconsin rolling, of course, stumbled a bit against Penn State earlier this week, but rolling from a scoring output standpoint, Wisconsin has now scored. Oh, wait, I have these game notes. Wisconsin has now scored 70 plus points in 12 consecutive games. That is a record. Well, not a record all time, but Wisconsin has not scored 70 points in 12 consecutive games since the 1970-71 season, when Wisconsin recorded the team's longest streak of scoring 70 plus points of 13. So Wisconsin now has the chance to score 70 plus points in a 13th game when they play on Monday. And that will tie the all-time program record for consecutive games scoring 70 plus points. And no, it's Tuesday. Oh yeah, Tuesday. Play at Minnesota. But there are some defensive questions for this team, and we'll get into them in the latter half of the show. But Max Klesmit's 26 points came largely from an outburst across 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes in the second half. And this is now a pattern for Max Klesmit, where he was struggling as recently as the second half of the game against Ohio State. And in the 10 days since, he has gone on an absolute tear with multiple 20-point games. I had said that he was over 2 against Ohio State from deep, and that some of the reasons his scoring numbers had declined so much is because he was struggling to shoot from deep. And then I tweeted tonight. I quote tweeted that again. We talked about the fact that I tweeted this on this show, and then all of a sudden Max Klesmit goes off. Well, then I quote tweeted that again tonight. Said Max Klesmit is now 14 of 17 from 3 since I tweeted this. 14 of 17. And then he hit like 3 more after that. Still, just unbelievable. Unbelievable performance by Max Klesmit, who seemingly is just playing out of his mind right now and will probably have to come back down to earth. But it is, in terms of the big picture, it is what makes this team so dangerous. We talked about this a bit on the show. What was that, 2 weeks ago? Something like that. I was in Texas. We're talking about this team and how it has the potential to win the Big Ten. And one of the reasons was when you have an array of offensive weapons, when you have Tyler Wall, when you have Stephen Crowell, who Chucky Hepburn called one of the best bigs in the country tonight, when you have Connor Essegian, who can come off the bench, when you have John Blackwell, who can come off the bench and gave a great spark to this team. We'll talk about that a little bit later on too. When you have AJ Storr, who scored 15 points again tonight, reaching double figures in his 13th straight game, 16th time out of 18 outings this season. AJ freaking Storr. When you have all these guys, Chucky Hepburn, Matt Klesmit, if one of them doesn't have a great game, you're going to get picked up by the others. And sorry if you hear paper ruffling. I'm grabbing the stat book here. And some of these guys didn't have a fantastic game, at least from a scoring output. Tyler Wall, he did have 8 points, but was in and out of the lineup, picked up his 4th foul pretty early. Stephen Crowell struggled a little bit, didn't really get going until later on in the game, and had 12 points. And it's 8 points, it's 12 points. It sounds like, oh, that's okay for Wisconsin, but you guys remember they scored 91 points tonight as a team. It's a low share of those points. And when this team has a couple players, maybe slump a little bit, but you can count on the Max Klesmit from now and then to pick up 20. I feel like I made this exact same point before, but it's huge. It comes huge. And if you get consistent performances from everybody, and then you also have a Max Klesmit who can go off for 15, 20 points, or an AJ Storr who can go off for 15, 20 points, a Tyler Wall who we're waiting on to have, a 15, 20 point game here. It feels like Tyler Wall, Stephen Crowell due for a big game, because have not gotten one out of one of those two guys in a little while here. And tonight could have been a good night for Stephen Crowell to do that with Khalil Ware, Indiana's starting center, out, transfer from Oregon. But I'm looking now, and Tyler Wall has done okay for himself as of late. 11 points. Hasn't scored more than 15 in 2 weeks. Okay. Stephen Crowell, on the other hand, who, it's 17 at Penn State, but besides that, he hasn't scored 15 since December 14th against Jacksonville State. Hasn't scored 15 in a Big Ten win yet this season. But when all that's happening, and you can get a player like Max Klesmit to score, it unlocks this team. It unlocks what this team can be. And it's so exciting. But there are some things that the Badgers need to clean up. And I want to talk about that in the second half of this show. But first, I want to tell you about TickPick. I did not use TickPick to get here because, of course, I had press credentials. But if I did need a ticket to get here, I would have bought that ticket on TickPick. And TickPick's where I buy all of my tickets to all my sporting events. Maybe you're going to Detroit today for the Bucks game. The biggest sporting event in Detroit this weekend is the Milwaukee Bucks playing at the Detroit Pistons. Or you're going to the Bucks game on Monday at Detroit. Make a big weekend out of it. I don't know what you're going to find to do on Sunday, but in Detroit, maybe something's happening. I don't know. But go to TickPick, download the TickPick app. That's TickPick in the Apple App Store, Google Play Store, or just click the link in my bio. Click the link in the podcast description. Click the link in the YouTube description. When you use that, you're going to save $10 on your first order, and you're going to never pay hidden fees ever again for your tickets. Look, TickPick doesn't pay me anything. This is just a service I love, and I want you to save money on your next ticket purchase. So go to the Google Play Store, go to the Apple App Store, download the TickPick app. That's TickPick. TickPick doesn't believe in hidden fees, so don't pay them. Pay the best price for tickets ever. If you find a better deal for those tickets, TickPick's going to refund you 110% of the difference in TickPick credit towards your next purchase. All right, so if you use the TickPick app to come to this game tonight, you saw some early struggles for Wisconsin. And among those early struggles were turnovers. And that was something that had the potential of lingering over from that Penn State game that was on Tuesday, because Wisconsin did not take care of the ball well in that game and didn't take care of the ball well to start this game. Had committed 3 turnovers in the first, I think it was 4 minutes, 25 seconds of game time. Fortunately, cleaned it up. Didn't commit only committed 1 other turnover the rest of the first half. But also, Indiana came out and shot very well to start the game. Ultimately, the Badgers clamped down on defense, and part of that turning it around was kind of the spark from John Blackwell, who I had said a week ago, I thought he had gone just a little bit quiet, but nah, he's all over it. No worries there. He is a solid Big Ten rotation player. No doubt about it. I think it's hard to see him slumping in the Big Ten, suffering a midseason freshman setback just because of all of the things he does with his game. He defends very well. He can get up and shoot the 3 and do it cold too, which is phenomenal. And he can get to the hoop. There was a point tonight where John Blackwell, who recorded 12 points in 20 minutes, oh my God, 4 of 6 shooting, 2 of 2 from deep, and hit both of his free throws tonight. Just an excellent addition to the team. What? Greg Gard can't recruit, by the way. There was a moment where he looked like he was going to pull up for another 3. Two Indiana defenders came over crashing down on John Blackwell. On freshman John Blackwell came crashing down on John Blackwell in the corner. They both bit on the pump fake, and he blew past 2 Indiana defenders and had a wide open baseline drive to the hoop. I'm looking over at the corner because I'm looking at the corner where it happened, and because it was just incredible when it happened. I mean, such like an underrated individual skill talent basketball play, because it didn't end with a dramatic finish or anything, but it was the little bit of attention to detail where Blackwell knows he doesn't need to pull that up there, even though he's been shooting very well from deep. Get both guys to bite, and then off you go. It's a great, patient, defensive basketball, or great, patient, offensive basketball move. He gave a spark to this offense when Wisconsin needed it, when Wisconsin was down early, and turned it around, got a lead, and pretty quickly built a 10-point lead that Wisconsin didn't really give back. Wisconsin almost let it get down to single digits, or did let it get down to single digits, 9 points at the very end of the game. But part of that was the question of what's wrong with this Wisconsin defense. This is a Wisconsin Badgers team that over the years, fans come to expect is going to win through its defense. And that's just not what's happening right now. It's winning through its offense, which in some sense is a breath of fresh air. It's one of the best offenses in the country. And it's bonkers to say. Wisconsin basketball has one of the best offenses in the country. And I know that's not we could say that a decade ago. We could say that in 2015, and it wouldn't have been that absurd. But last year the offense was bad. It feels like the offense has not been phenomenal for a number of years, and it's tempo too. This Wisconsin team doesn't play the fastest tempo in the world, but they don't play the slowest either. And they're winning through their offense. Like I said, they scored 70 plus points in 12 straight games. And that's, maybe that's night in, night out if you're a team like Kansas, like Kentucky. It's not a night in, night out thing for this program. And it goes against the identity a little bit. And earlier in the season, I did kind of think that maybe some of the Greg Gard, just complaining about defense first, was just a little bit of an identity question of saying, we just play defense first. And that's fine. That's how you can win basketball games. But I have now been turned around to the idea that this team actually has a defense problem. And I have been there for a while, but this game is exactly a great picture of that fact. Because Wisconsin, although the Badgers struggled early, did clamp down on defense the rest of the first half. Only allowed Indiana to shoot 40% from the field by the time the first half had ended. But allowed 79 points by the time the game was all said and done. Wisconsin, in their last two games, have allowed opponents to score 79 and 87 points. 87 points against Penn State. Only allowed 63 and 60 against Northwestern Ohio State. But before that, 72 to Nebraska, 72 to Iowa. 53 and 60 against Chicago State and Jacksonville State. Not very good teams. But before that, 98 to Arizona. And yeah, Arizona's Arizona. But this team's got some problems on the defensive end. And in the second half, it showed. Because Wisconsin, who is shooting out of its mind, overall, Wisconsin shot on the game, shot almost 60% from the field, over 47% from three, and over 86% from the free throw line. In the second half, those numbers are even more ridiculous. Second half shooting stats: Wisconsin made 2/3 of its shots from the field, 60% of its shots from three, 82.4% of their free throws. But you're going to win games that way. But this Wisconsin offense, these Wisconsin players seem to get a little bit lost in the moment of these scoring runs, because these teams were, trading buckets kind of. Max Klesmit goes on this crazy run where he scores or assists on 22 of 24 Wisconsin points. But near the end of it, Indiana's getting buckets. It wasn't a full run there where both of those teams went back and forth, because Wisconsin did outscore Indiana in that run 24-11. But there was a second there where Indiana was kind of keeping pace and getting shots, draining shots. Indiana on the game made over 50% of its shots from the field, almost 43% of its three-pointers. That's fine. 81%. But in the second half, made 2/3 of its shots from the field, made 55% of its shots from three. You can't have that. Some of these shots are just wide open too. And frankly, the Badgers are getting wide open looks as well. But that's why Gard wants the pace slowed down a little bit, so that team doesn't get lost in the moment of the offensive flurry, and is paying attention to it, because it is easy. It is easy to get caught up in all the excitement of scoring bucket after bucket. But if you are not able to reset yourself every 30 seconds, and that's hard. That's a hard thing to do in a basketball game. If you're not able to do that, though, you're gonna allow slip-ups. And Wisconsin allowed some slip-ups in the second half today. And that's gonna get them against better teams who can keep pace against them because Indiana, who has the 110th best offense by adjusted efficiency, according to Ken Pom, and 88th ranked defense, that's like mid. Wisconsin, on the other hand, has oh my god, Wisconsin has the fourth best offense in the country by adjusted efficiency margin, by adjusted efficiency, according to Ken Pom. Played a middling 65 possessions tonight. But if you can't improve those defensive numbers, 48. Difference there is 4th to 48. That's tough. That's really tough to keep up when teams are just going to be better than you. And if you on defense are allowing 79 points to the 110th best offense in the country, what are you going to do when Purdue comes calling? What are you going to do when Illinois comes calling? Illinois rolling in and looking like they get Terrence Shannon back. Probably their best player, Purdue, who has the number 2 offense in the country. Michigan State, who has the number 25 best offense in the country. Illinois, who has the 9th best offense in the country. What are you going to do when those teams come knocking on your door? And Purdue, no slouch on defense either. Michigan State, no slouch on defense. Illinois, no slouch on defense. All those teams have better defenses, rank in the 10 to top 25 range, according to Ken Pom, by adjusted efficiency. So what is this Wisconsin basketball team going to do when one of those teams comes knocking? And you have guys who have no business missing their assignments. Experienced guys. Max freaking Klesmit. Chucky Hepburn. 4 years with the program. Not Max Klesmit, but you get the picture. He's played a long time. Gotta lock in on defense. Gotta get it together. And I think this team knows that. You can watch the full post-game interview on my YouTube channel, where this podcast also lives. youtube.com/@Scotty6pack. While you're there, hit the subscribe button. Pound the like button. Leave a comment with some nice words. Whatever you like about the show would help. But you can watch the full post-game interview with the players. And they seemed to know and understand that stuff needs to be better on the defensive end. Max Klesmit really got it, I think, in particular, but more's got to be done there. Guys know it, but there's a certain point where you can say that you know it, and I wonder if they really, really know it. It's easy to say, yeah, I got to do better at this. It's hard to actually do it. And that's what Greg Gard's going to have to look for this team to do. All right. Well, I think that's about a wrap on the show. Thank you for listening. If you have not yet listened to yesterday's episode and you are listening still on Saturday and it is before 6:30 p.m., whatever, go listen to yesterday's episode. We do a huge breakdown on the Packers, 49ers and the Packers' strengths, weaknesses, how the Packers can win this game. And if they do, something vibes. Something immaculate. Go listen to that next week on the show. Well, unless we do a victory lap episode tonight. Could be doing that. We'll see. Otherwise, I believe we'll be back Monday doing probably a little bit of a Packers season recap, Packers season, just, vibe check on a loss if we're coming back Monday. Otherwise, I think that'll be it. Do that. We got to talk a little bit of Bucks. Haven't talked Milwaukee Bucks in a little while. If you're looking for some Milwaukee Brewers stuff, which pitchers and catchers report to spring training in just over 30 days, I think it is. No, less than that. Oh, geez, just under 30 days. go check that out. I got a little tidbit in the newsletter. So go subscribe to the newsletter, skynysixpack.substack.com. Follow me on Twitter. I'm your host, Kedrick Stumbris, at Kedrick Stumbris on the website formerly known as Twitter. Follow the podcast at Skinny Six Pack to get the latest updates in Wisconsin sports. If you are listening to this podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, hit the follow button, leave a nice review, 5 stars, kind comments. You can also watch this podcast on YouTube, youtube.com/@ Skinny Six Pack. Smash the subscribe button, hit that like button, leave some kind words so other people can find the show. I really, really appreciate everything that you all do to make this happen. Also, get some tickets to a game. Tell me you're going. Maybe I'll come. I don't know. I like going to things. Use my link in the podcast description to save $10 in your first order with TickPick. Bye on Wisconsin. Go back. Go.